purpose of the candle?
Oh, you know what? I wanted something different.
Noticeably different.
I really wanted to create a space that says, this is us. Hence the reason I chose this room.
Okay.
Did I moan to you about those other rooms the last time we met? I hated them.
Those are fish bowls.
Because everybody that walked past, yes. And not only that, they were all, what are we doing in there? What's happening there? You know, and for me, this interview is so personal, in such an intimate space. I don't want that. That's why I've had this room booked since December last year. I went to Michelle and I said, Michelle, you see that room? These are my dates. Please book it for me.
Yeah, no.
See,
That's-
there's been method in
In
all my madness. There's been method.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially that's the purpose of where we are today. And what emerges is what is meant to emerge, as you already alluded to. So I'd like to go back, way back. We did touch on it in your interview. I remember we started doing a bit of your history. But I want to go back to that because I don't have that recorded at all.
Oh, okay.
But I want us to go way back. So I want your family background. Where did you fall in that structure? Maybe a bit of schooling.
Okay.
Your education after school, if there was. How did you end up at West Bank? We did talk about your careers. We did talk a little bit about your career, but as I said, I don't have that. I remember, but I want more of that.
Okay, so let's start. I was born on the 7th of January 1962 in Ladysmith on a street called Lyle Street, so I'm really going back.
Yep.
My mum is a Madagascan, and she has no immediate family in South Africa. So her siblings and her parents were either between Madagascar and India. What she did have was her cousins. So her aunt and her cousins. So that's where she came. Hence, when I say I was born in Ladysmith, I was born at her aunt's place. And in those days, think back to 53 years ago, it was home births, it was never hospitals and natural births and all of that. So that's where, and why is it important for me is my sister always relates to me how I was born. I was born in the middle of the night apparently, and my mom said to her, no, now you need to go because I'm going to bring your little sister or brother into this world. And all she could hear was my mom going through the labor pains, and the next thing she heard was baby cry. And she says to me, you're a crybaby from the day you were born. Okay. And I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. So between us, we have a brother. My sister's 5 years my senior. My brother's 4 years my senior. I was basically then born. My life, I come from a very, when I say poor background, poor financially, rich in everything else. So rich in family values, rich in closeness, rich in togetherness, things of that nature. So financially, we battled. There were days in my life that my mum wouldn't be able to put a plate on. My dad wouldn't be able to put a plate on food on the table. We would literally have bread and tea and things of that nature. So it kind of makes life very important and valuable. So when I say poor financially but rich in every other way, I truly mean rich in every other way. When I look and listen to some of my peers, and I listen at work, I listen to friends. My mum was the Pied Piper in the area we live. So in Overport, I grew up in Durban. So born in Ladysmith, grew up in Durban. Formative years were there. My paternal grandparents lived in Espingo Beach, which is in Durban, South Coast, but more Mzimtoti area, if you're familiar with it. Just outside there, we grew up between the 2 houses. We lived in a flat in Overport. My mum was the Pied Piper of the flat. What she couldn't give us financially, she gave us in every other way. And I talk about my mum because my dad is a very quiet person, very much an introvert, quiet but very present, okay, but not active in our lives as kids. And never has been, but he was that person that was there. So I grew up with both the parents. I was my dad's pet, so I'll tell you that. Nobody could touch a hair on my head, because then they got scales from anywhere. But it was my mum who actually nurtured, brought us. And my mum would take us out on weekends to the beach, to the parks. And not only did she take us, she took everybody else in the building with her. And she would say to all the kids and the mums, we're going here today, is your kids coming with me? And we never had much. And it was about the fun of life. So that is my kind of formative years of it. Schooling, went to primary school. I get reminded that I'm a crybaby because my mum had to take me to school and I would cry till we get there. I would cry when she left. But that's who I was. I have no qualms about it, and I said it hasn't changed who I am. High school, my grandparents had a clothing factory. My dad used to work in the clothing factory, and he was what they called at that time a cutter. So the garments you wear, he would cut the pattern, and then he would just cut all the outfits because it was a family business. They had hand, and then they had those cutting machines, but it was hand. It wasn't through anything way back then. And he used to do that. My mom was a seamstress at home, so she would sew and get, and that's how money came in and things of that nature. My dad then. My grandparents' company closed down through whatever happened. I don't know the details there. And my dad
Where were you in high school?
Yes, I was in high school. My dad then, my mom then continued. My dad then worked for another clothing company called Kingsgate. Kingsgate started going under because of also different stories, and they were retrenching. My dad got retrenched, and then my grandparents in that interim moved to Johannesburg. So my father said, okay, let me go see if there's an opportunity in Johannesburg. At least we have a source of income. And that's when the first time our family literally split up. My brother, when my grandparents moved to Johannesburg, my brother was the first grandson in the family. And that's treasured, if I can put it.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so that's treasured. And my grandparents actually asked my folks if they could take my brother with at that time with them. It was very hard for my parents, but my parents said, okay, like...
How old were you? How old was he?
I can't even remember the age, I'll lie to you.
But high school?
But no, it was still when I was at primary school. So they took him away when he was very young. So he more grew up with my grandparents than he did with us as my sister and I. So my sister and I are extremely close. My brother is late. He passed away in 2008. So he is late. He had cancer for 2 years. I'm going all over your story. But so he's there. So my brother, so it was just my mom, my dad, my sister and I. And it used to be all kids in the building. So our building was called Mohammed Mansions, but it was called 40 Flats, so the nickname because there was 41 flats in this block of flats, and there were lots of kids. And it was a building that was like a rectangle, and the doors faced one another, and the courtyard was there, and we'd always play, and we lived on the ground floor, and our house was used as an in and out, which was lovely. So when all of this, like my brother wasn't there, my sister, when my dad then moved out to Johannesburg, my dad said he'll go on condition that we don't move. He didn't believe in the education in Johannesburg. He said no, it would be okay for him to go. He would stay with my grandparents, and my mom must stay with us to ensure we have the right education. So the one thing that my family was very focused on was educating us. I finished matric, my sister finished matric. My sister started working because, like I said, income was a challenge. She's 5 years my senior. I was still in school, things of that nature. She fortunately met my brother-in-law, and she got married while we were still in Durban. I then finished matric in 1979, 1980.
So pause for a moment. So I won't be interrupting.
No
things that I'll be
problem.
curious about. So when she got married, where were you? Were you
Still in Durban. So
No, sorry, I mean in terms of school. Because you would have been in high school.
Yes, I was in high school.
How soon did she get married when she started working? Because there's a 5-year difference between the two of you.
The minute she finished school. So when she finished matric,
18?
when she finished matric, she didn't go further.
And she got married.
And then shortly thereafter, she got married. And the reason she didn't go further was a point of where, from a financial point of view, My dad, as much as by then he had moved to Johannesburg. Yes, he wasn't living with us at that time. He had moved to Johannesburg and, commuted between the two cities. And she worked for a while, and then she got married. And we got the job through friends of friends of friends of that nature.
But that left you as an only child at home with your mom?
Yes, so that was the case. There was even a time when my mum, whilst Rukshana was working, who's my elder sister, my mum would come to Johannesburg to be with my dad. Then it would be the two of us in the flat. But we lived in such a block of flats that everybody took care of us.
Yes.
And my mum made us very self-sufficient. So they called me the bookworm because I used to love reading, and I still do. And my sister used to do cooking, and she used to come from school and make certain things because my mum would be working, whatever it was, and she would help in the kitchen. I didn't. Okay, that's why they're amazed that I can even cook today. But that's weird.
So you're the crybaby, and she can actually boil water.
Well, I even burned myself with water as a kid. So that's why they used to always say, you can't cook, you can't do this. Yeah. But it never bothered me. I'll learn when I need to learn. And so we had that very close relationship. I can't tell you time frames, but yeah. So that happened, and then, like I mentioned, my mom would commute. I then finished matric. I wanted to study to become a CA, and back then my dad's brother was very influential, if I can say influential in the same, like it was his word, influential, not in a nasty sense, nor in a good sense, like do it this way kind of thing. And I wish I had stuck to my career choice.
What did he have to do with you not doing your career choice?
Because when I was the first person in our family to pass with the matric exemption. So when I talk our family, I talk my dad's family. So my cousins, my brother, my sister, I think also did just a senior certificate. She never walked away with a matric exemption. Things of that nature. So I was the first one who got a matric exemption, which was a big thing way back then.
Yes, and that you could go to varsity.
And I could go to varsity.
So what did he do that stopped that?
I was going to go. He said I must go into the medical field. And I chose then. I said okay, because now all this was happening. And they said, no, you can't go study accounting. Leave that. That's what Indians always do. And Indians are very good with numbers. So let me tell you that. If you want to look at the best, and if you look at history, go talk to them. Indians are exceptionally good with numbers. Somehow, I don't know what it is, but it's there. It is a strength. And if you go in India, it's science and maths and accounting, medical fields. It's all around those sort of things.
All the sciences.
The sciences, right? And I wanted to be a CA. That was my goal, was to be a CA. And that's what I strive for. Even so, my subjects I had chosen was along that field. So when I chose my matric subjects, it was to become a CA. It was either to be a teacher or to be a CA. That was the two I was going. And he came, no, with your past, you should first member in the family, you should go and study medicine. And I said, I don't want to do medicine. Okay, then do something in the medical field. Okay, then we started exploring, and I chose physiotherapy.
Really?
Yes. So I did 18 months of physiotherapy. But it was also at the time of the boycotts.
Yes.
So it was time of that. And I am a
rebellious person. So therefore,
I was involved in university. Nothing to do with the police. Never got involved in that sense. All very good. Very active in that space. And I had a semester course. And part of it was that, sorry, you can't finish your year.
Why?
Because of the boycotts and what we had done. So I was kind of not suspended or anything, but because we didn't write our first semester, the first 2 semesters exams, I couldn't, and they weren't negotiating anything way back then.
Which university was this?
University of Durban Westville at that time. So I said, forget about it. Then my sister was working she was married, so she was working for a company. Oh, it was there. She got married only when I was at varsity. So she got married when I was at varsity. So she was through with me for quite a while, but she worked. So she then had a job at a place in Berea Road when she was working, and she heard about a job at a pharmacy. So she said, you know what you going to do? So I said, no, I'm going to Dad. And she said, okay, go to Dad, but here's an opportunity for you to earn some money. Do you want it? So I said, yeah, I'll earn it for a couple of months. Then I'll go to Dad. And then I will go back to varsity next year. So this happened around June. So I went and worked for them, I think June, July, August. And then August I decided to come to Johannesburg because I said, you know, this is not for me. It wasn't interesting.
Life-giving.
It wasn't challenging. And I said to my mom and them, I said, really, do I need to do this? Are we so desperate that I'm miserable? Do we need to do it? And they said, no. We're able to help you. So you want to go to your dad, go to your dad. So I said, I'll go spend a couple of months a day and I'll come back up and down. I then came through to Johannesburg in August 1982. Walking around with my cousins, did things, and my eldest cousin, we're very close as a bigger family unit. So my dad's brothers and sisters' kids are like brothers and sisters to me.
Yes.
Okay, that's how we've been grown up and brought up. Because even when my mom, when I say to you, the Pied Piper, when she used to take us on holiday, she makes sure she takes 3 of my cousins with. So everybody thought she had 5 children, 5 girls, and not 3 children and 1 son. Yes, so they never knew that. But that's who she was. And so I was with them, and the one cousin said, I'm going for a job interview, come with me. And we went to Drake Personnel Agency. So I was accompanying her. She was dressed up for an interview. I was varsity, so jeans, T-shirt, khakis. I went to sit with her. She went, the lady says to me, would you like to are you here for an application? I said, no, I'm with her. I'm not looking for a job. Yes. And she said, oh. And she started talking to me. So while Mayroon was being interviewed, and Poppy were being interviewed, so the 2 sisters were in for a job. She was sitting and chatting to me just like this. And then she said to me, can I ask you to fill in a form? I said, no. She said, why? I said, I'm going back to university next year. She says, but what if you can have a job for 3 months and go back? Isn't that something for you? I said, okay, what type of job? Now I started asking questions. And she said, fill in a form, because I can't tell you anything until I have a form, an application, because I'm breaching confidentiality kind of thing. So I said, okay. Poppy, my cousin, stepped out and she said, what's going on? I said, the lady wants me to fill it. She said, fill it. Now, we are the same age. What's so coincidental is my dad's brother and my dad both have 3 kids. The 2 eldest are born in the same year. My brother and my middle cousin are born in the same year. My youngest cousin and I are born in the same year. Wow. It's very coincidental, but that's it. So this was the youngest one. And she said, come on, fill it. I said, but Pops, I'm going back to university. She said, just fill it. I filled it. 2 days later, they phone and they say, Westbank would like to interview you. Wow. So I said, no. And I said, no. I said, no, I'm not coming for a job. And I declined it. They phoned again. And they said, please, Westbank would really like to see you. So on the 21st of September 1982, I eventually started with Westbank.
Wow. That was a month. Wow.
And when I had the interview with Westbank, I said to them, as much as you employ me permanently, please be aware I'm leaving you in December because I'm going on holiday with my brother.
Yes.
He and I were going to tour South Africa. He had his Capri, and we were the 2 brother and sister, because we never spent time together because of the thing.
Yes.
And he had said to me, you know what? If there's one thing I can give you, is I'm going to give you a good holiday before you go back to university.
Beautiful.
And I said, great. And I said to them up front, I said, if I do get this job, understand I'm only working with you until I go on holiday. And they both laughed at me. I still remember it. Mark Hughes was one interviewer, and Rod Lauder. And they said to me, what? I said, yes, I'm telling you, I'm only working for thing because I'm going back to university, and in December I'm having a holiday. And they said, okay, can we take you on for a couple of months if everything checks out? And I said, okay. And that's when I never left.
So they had the last laugh.
They had the last laugh.
Did you go on that holiday in December?
I did go, but for a short break. So what I did, because then they said, you know what, and I started off as a teller in Westbank. So if you want to know where I started, at that point in time, Westbank used to take in the money for the installments.
Wow.
So
Was that in town, in Johannesburg, downtown?
Rissik Street.
Selby.
No, Rissik.
Because it was a Westbank down there.
No, that right at the bottom was
Yes.
Kenmore Towers was the regional office.
No.
Further.
Going
Not in
Selby,
Selby.
going towards...
So in Rissik Street, going up to Bromfontein.
Yes.
So Bromfontein on the top,
Yes.
at the bottom end was Kenmore Towers. And
Yes.
that was the regional office. Right at the beginning of the freeway from the bottom of Rissik.
Yes, I know where it is, yeah.
That's Kenmore Towers.
Yes.
Then further up, about 2 or 3 blocks, was Rissik Street branch. And I was based there. It used to be opposite that big Edgar's. Edgar's was on the corner.
Yes.
There was a massive, and the city hall, the city hall or something was there.
So now I worked, so where it was Vanderbijl Square,
Yes,
remember?
yes.
Vanderbijl Square.
Yeah.
You could cross, so you had to cross Rissik and then go to Lovedale. I worked
Yes.
in Commercial Union.
Okay,
Right
I
there.
remember there.
Right there. So that's where I was.
Yeah.
And then coming this way, as if you were coming south, there was a West Bank.
Yes, that
Before
yes.
the highway.
That was the one of the branches, but I worked on
okay.
the one further up.
Yes.
And that's where. And the
So
job,
you were at the till and you were collecting money.
I was collecting cash, so the
Yeah.
job was for me to take in the installments and to quote settlements at that time. And we used to do settlements on a microfiche. So you put it there, you
Yes.
go find the account, you read it,
Yes.
and you give the figure. It came on a call, you read it, and you give the figure.
Yes.
That was my job.
Wow.
And from there, my career kind of pushed off in Westbank, because then I went on the holiday. I came back because they said, go and take your holiday, okay? But please come back because we have lots of people on leave. Can you help us before you go to Boston? So I said, okay. Then they started sending me on workshops. Then I've had an awesome career in Westbank. I'm not who I am today, so I'll tell you that, Anne. Today, somebody would say I'm very much an extrovert. By nature, I'm an introvert.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so by personal nature, I'm an introvert. The confidence, the self-esteem that I have built up through Westbank is what I am today. And it's my own being that's also come to the fore, but very much what Westbank has invested in me.
You went back to Durban at some point.
Yes, so then I started there, and I can't stay at a job long for years and years. This is my longest role, which is kind of getting to my head at the moment, but it's fine. I've had about 18 positions since I've been
How
in
many?
West. 18.
Oh, I thought she said
18,
18.
no, 8 positions in Westbank. So I started there. They used to have what they used to call finance center consultants. I sat on First National floors and sold finance. I then to the private individual of the customer
In
base.
Joburg.
In Joburg.
So you went from teller
Yes.
to the...
Yeah. So from teller, I went to actually being what they called a new business officer. So I then worked your application when you apply for finance, and I got to see all of that. Then from there, I actually went on to the finance center floors. I then worked with another gentleman, Endeval, and we opened up the Gold Coin Exchange, where Westbank Finance Kruger runs. And we sat at the South African Gold Coin Exchange, and we would then lodge all those coins. I used to work with all those coins. I used to touch, feel it. It used to be like, wow. You know, that sort of thing.
wow.
Yeah, it's like, oh, gold coin. Oh, yes. So it was, and you worked in this vault. Literally, the office
Yeah.
was like a vault.
Of course.
Yes, so we worked in there. You had to come through a vault door to get into the office
Where
in
were you?
Carlton
Pretoria?
Centre.
Oh, Carlton Centre. When I didn't know that was there.
It's upstairs. I can't remember. I think it was the 18th or 26th. Some
Wow.
weird floor we were there. They had like a vault.
Sure.
Then we used to lodge it in, so we used to do all of that. And we set it up. We opened it and we closed it, if I can put it together that way. Because we opened it, it was successful, and then it was dying down. It wasn't a market that the South Africans were interested in doing. So then we said, I'll close it. From there, I moved on to like Rosebank, Sandton, FNB floors. I became what they called a commercial marketer, and then I started serving the corporate customer at the smaller end. At one stage, I got bored, and I said I wasn't going anywhere. It was just like moving from finance into, and I thought,
And tell me this, because you said then you move. How did those moves happen? Did
I
you
never asked
apply? They gave them to you. They said,
here's another opportunity. The only job I applied for is, at a point in time, as a family, we started talking about, do we want to relocate to Durban? My sister by then was married. My mom was with us in Joburg. We were all like in Joburg. My sister was here. My brother was also married at that time and moved to Botswana and all of that. So lots happened in the family space. And we as a group of cousins and family said, guys, do we want to stay here? And I had said, you know what? I wasn't enjoying that front line, that space, because I wasn't getting great satisfaction and motivation, and if I can say that way. So I had asked for a change, and I ended up in the HR space in personnel. And I started doing payroll, and I didn't enjoy it. So I was there not even long, and I said to, it was Mr. Prela was his name, and I said, Mr. Prela, this is not me. I'm not talking to people. As much as I'm an introvert, I still like to interact with people, but not in the face. And he said to me, okay, my girl, what do you want to do? And I said to Mr. Prela, that was the first time I asked for something that I think I want to go to Durban and try something in Durban. And he said, why Durban? And I'm a very, what you see is what you get. I said, my family is thinking of relocating. So if there's ever an opportunity that I can relocate, find a job in Durban, in Westbank, I'd like to, the opportunity. And an opportunity came about, and that's how I moved back. And guess what? My family stayed here, and I moved back.
But guys, I thought that was part of the deal.
Yeah, and when I got there, the others said, okay, we're coming, and then it just never happened. So it wasn't meant to be.
And when did you meet your husband and get married through this? Were you
so
really
my
married
husband,
when you...
no, I
not
wasn't.
yet.
I only got married in 1989. So then I was in Johannesburg. I came back. I joined what we called then the McCarthy branch. They used to only service the McCarthy dealers. I joined them as a new business officer. Then they said they needed somebody on as a finance center consultant on one of the dealer floors, which was McCarthy Car Bar. I kind of went to that, ran that business, grew the business, that sort of thing. And then I said, you know what, I'm not being challenged. An opportunity came about in West Street branch. And then they asked me if I would go to there, and that was to be the new business supervisor. I went to that role. From there, it was a case. So I'm a very forward person, not realizing at that time, but if I reflect,
Yes.
I'm very forward, because we used to have what they used to call the branch admin controller, and I remember Penny being there. And I said, Penny, how do I get into your role? What do I have to do to go there? And she said, why? I said, no, I want to know what do I need to do. And I was very fortunate. I was always nominated for many workshops, programs, and I was a bookworm. Remember what I said? So if you said there's a workshop and you needed to study, I would do it. It was easy for me. And I would do it. And then she said, no, just continue. And I eventually became the admin controller. Then we had what we called, in those old days, was a B25 computer.
I remember you telling me this. I'm still gone.
And I had said to Debbie Keegan, she was the B25 coordinator, and I said, I want your job. And she got a shock. But she used to be at the regional office. I was in the branch, and I got the job. Somewhere along the way, I got, because when the opportunity came, she moved into training. She then said, there's a person who wants the job, and I think she can do it. So I kind of said I wanted. I never applied for it. I never thought it would happen. When I was there, I did that. I got married in 1999. I had my son in 1990.
In Durban.
In Durban. Now I was permanently in Durban. And then in 1990, I had my son. And once my son was born, I now had enough of this job. So I said to the guy who was there, Anna Naidu, how do I get your job? And he says, you know, you and everybody's jobs, you need to keep quiet. And he's an Indian guy, and we were quite close. And I said, Anand, but how do I get to move? And then eventually I did get his job, because one of the stumbling blocks for our regional manager was the fact that he said to me, no, you can't have the job. And I said, why can't I? You know, you're a new mom, and your child needs you. And I said, what does my child need me for? Doesn't mean I'm going to work and travel. And I said, how many times a year? So one of the requirements of the job is that you had to visit the branches twice a year. We had, if I recall, about 8 or 12 branches. No, we had 12 branches at 8 subs. So we would have a branch in Vryheid, But we had sub-branch in Dundee, as an example, and Piet Retief that reported. So you had to visit all the sub-branches once a year and the main branches twice a year. And he said, you can't do that. And I said, what's stopping me? You know, and he said, you're a child. And I said, why is that a stumbling block? And the other factor was that being a Muslim female, you know, and being an Indian female, think back to way back then, the South African environment. I remember in Vryheid, they didn't want to give me a room at the bed and breakfast. They booked me in because they thought I was a white girl that was coming and an Indian girl pitched up. So those were the kinds of challenges, and it never fazed me. So from there, I progressed. I was fortunate. When I finished the RAA job, I think differently. I love exploring things, and I do things differently. I then said to them, you know what, now I've reached the pinnacle. I still remember Alden Boy, who was the regional manager, at the end of my first fiscal year of what I had to do. He said to the team, we were having a team lunch, and he said, I have to compliment you, Hawa. You actually did all your visits, and you did more, and I never expected that. And I said, thank you.
That was big of him.
Yeah, and he acknowledged it. And when I moved from there, I was fortunate to then go back to West Street branch, but they then brought me in as a BDM for the commercial business. So selling finance to the smaller corporates, but because that's where the focus was. And they said, I used to like the dealers, but I didn't love them. I'm not a drinker, I'm not a party goer. The motor dealer market is one where you had to drink with them, and I couldn't handle that crudeness, if I can tell you, of what a salesman is like. Today's salesman is very different to those days. They thought the woman was there to entertain them, and I'm sorry, I'm not that way inclined. So when I think about all of that, and I said to the bank, I don't enjoy that. So I'm more suited to the corporate market. Can I grow myself in that? Because we started getting the corporate division, that my ultimate goal would be to join corporate. I was fortunate they gave me that role as BDM for West Street branch, and I grew in that space. Then when they formed the whole branch of just commercial marketers, I moved into that space because it became a full branch. In that, initially we were spread across like a person in each branch. Then we created a branch that was called the West Bank Commercial Branch, and our focus was purely that. And it was just one below the big corporates. From there, I was there, then they had the competition, who wants to be a West Banker. And in 2001, I won the competition for the KZN area with 9 other people. So Simpiwe, my boss, was the candidate from Eastern Cape. Darcy Taran was the candidate from Free State. Anneke Swart headed it kind of up when we went on our trip to Disney World. There were a lot of us. Adele Mankies was a candidate from Western Cape and things like that. And if I think, as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, Simpiwe and I are the only 2 of that group.
Remaining.
No, not remaining, that have progressed in their career. Adele Mankies is still somehow in the role she was. Dossie is still in that kind of stuff, in that level. We're the only 2 that have progressed. So which is, just talking to you, I think about it. That was an awesome experience. That happened in 2001. But then I was mummy twice around. My daughter was born in 97. Sadly, I got hijacked twice. Sadly, at the same time, 2000, my dad passed away. 2001. 2006, my mom passed away. So lots happened from the year 2000 for us from a 2006, my brother was diagnosed with cancer in December. My mom had passed away in September that year. It was like quite...
It was life shock after life shock.
Yes, so it's then. And the reason I even relocated was, so when I won it in 2001, we went to Disney World in 2002. It's around that time. 2001, we went to Disney World. In February. We came back, then the bank asked a few of us from that team to actually head up customer service. So Simpiwe was selected, I was selected, Fernando. I don't know, where's Fernando? Is he still here? I don't even know. So there were a few of us that were selected to be part of a project team to take our learnings from Disney World to drive into West Bank.
So why did you go? Sorry, so Disney World wasn't, let's just go and have, it wasn't,
No.
so what do you mean you went to Disney
We
World?
went to Disney
See, my
World.
assumption was that
The
this
holiday.
this was you won a competition, you got to go to
Okay.
Disney World.
So Disney World, there was two parts of it. One was to attend the Customer Service Institute.
Okay.
And that was a most awesome experience
Okay.
because we got to see the behind the scenes of Disney World.
Right.
So we attended the institute. We learned about how they do customer service there.
Right.
Then we also had a holiday in that.
Yes.
So it wasn't just all work.
Yes.
There was a fun component, and that's where I say Anneke Swart, being one of the ladies, was heading it up because she was head of customer service centers
Right.
at that time. And so we kind of went to that. And one of the days when you walk up, if you go up the lift,
Yes.
there's a photograph of the team that went to Disney
Okay.
World on the wall, if it's still
Which
there.
level?
Second
Up
floor.
Centre Court.
No, second floor.
One more.
So in the office.
Yes.
So in the office building.
Okay,
Yes,
through the office.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Through the office.
You'll take me there and show me.
Yes, I'll show you.
Yeah.
So we went. And what was nice about that, we got the experience of Disney World, we got the experience of the Disney Institute, the learnings from there. We were then taken behind the scenes on how Disney does their things and what their people are trained to do. And then we had the fun part. So we visited all the theme parks, everything. I went to Disney World Paris last year and I said, oh, don't waste your money.
No, don't waste.
I told my kids said they want to go, and I
No.
said, don't waste your money, go to
agree
Orlando.
with you.
That's the place to be. So we did that. So when we came back, we had to take our learnings from the Institute and say, how do we bring it into West Bank? And then that was the project team that came out. I commuted between Johannesburg and Durban for 6 months. At that time, I had a 3-year-old daughter. In that space, while I commuted and did all of that, yeah. And I had a husband and I have a husband, I don't have a husband, I have a husband who's fully behind me.
I remember us I commented on it, and I think that's really...
Yeah, I have a husband and I had a son. And my mum-in-law lived with us, which also helped tremendously. So I had a very supportive family. They did that. Eventually the bank said, okay, Hawa, this commuting ain't good for you and your family because you're here on a Monday morning, you're out on a Friday. So you spend weekends with your family. It's probably not healthy. Then the second thing they said, and we'd like you to come permanently. So Judy approached me when she came down to Durban for one of the visits. Part of my career and my journey has, and this is where I take, and I don't know if you know him, Ronnie Watson. The late
No,
Ronnie Watson.
he'd already left by the time.
Okay. I have a lot of respect for the late Ronnie Watson. I say a lot of what I have today is also due to him. Because he saw something in me that then created the opportunities for me. So part of my career journey is that I was on the Diversity Forum. I was one of the KZN representatives. I became the chair for KZN. Derek Augustine, who's still in the organization, left and came back, was the diversity manager. I then became the national chairperson for West Bank. I would represent West Bank at the first grand level, all of that. One of the things Ronnie did was that he would bring up the forum, and we would twice a year have a conference and have a conversation with what they then called Mancos at that point in time until they evolved to Excos and all the funny names. But that's what he would do. And then he would invite the chairperson to talk and present at the Manco on a monthly basis. So I used to fly up for those meetings. And that exposure actually, that opportunity gave me the exposure to the management of West Bank. It used to be daunting, because remember what I said to you, I was an introvert.
Yes.
And I am an introvert by nature. And I had to develop all of these things to have the ability to talk to a forum that is made up of majority white males. I'd be lucky if there was a female sitting there, and many of them were Afrikaner white males. And you're standing there as an Indian female, and you have to know your facts backwards. Not only am I selling the forum, but it also, and without me realizing it, what I'm sharing with you is all the things in hindsight. And it's part of the things I wrote, and I'm sure you've read it. I don't know if you understood the writing. I take what he gave me those opportunities. If he didn't recognize whatever he recognized, I wouldn't be where I am. So I'm forever grateful for that. When I was then asked to transfer to Johannesburg, and I came to Johannesburg, I came into the portfolio of customer service portfolio in the HR space to actually make it happen in the bank from a learning intervention, not delivering the training. Whilst I was in the role, they asked me if I'd take on the new entrance portfolio. And Ronnie used to run the new entrance, but he used to only come in for an hour. So when I took it over, I used to do the induction of the new entrance for Westbank. And he would come and do his hour stint, and I don't do things as they are. And as I got more comfortable with him and my confidence grew, I could say, Ronnie, what about this? What about that? We eventually changed it into what is known as the first gear today. But it was an induction that was started by Ronnie Watson. We revamped the whole thing. And we created a workshop where he presented the bulk of the time together with myself.
Wow.
We got to a point where Westbank, if I can say, in the group became the model of how we did induction. So I was in that role. Then I was in hospital for one of the women's procedures, so we always suffer with.
Yes.
And he asked, and that's when he started, 2 years before that, he introduced an executive assistant post. So this was the third executive assistant, and I was in hospital, and I got a call. Well, I was back home recuperating, and Judy called me to say, you're going to get a call from Ronnie Watson to see you, please, if you can come.
It in here.
Yes, if you can, come and see him.
Yes.
So I did. And then I went and saw him, and he told me what it's about, so that's what I then had, and I became his executive assistant. Chris de Kock was the general manager for marketing. I just joined them. Westbank made a record. We had to go around doing the road show, and I had to do the work with Ronnie. So I said, okay. But then I was very confident, not to the level of arrogance, but I was confident, and I would say, why, Ronnie? I'm doing, relax. And Chris actually packed up laughing on the plane, because we were sitting, Ronnie, me, Chris.
Yes.
And Chris looked at the way I had responded to Ronnie. And Ronnie kept quiet, but
Yes.
And Chris packed up laughing, and he said, ha, 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 we found somebody who can stand up to you. And I went, oh my God. And if I say to you that my heart sank and my stomach, I was waiting to be shouted at. He sat back, he looked at me, and he started laughing.
Wow.
And Chris just nudged me and said, chill. And Ronnie said to me, you cheeky little devil. I will never forget that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for the man. I miss him. 19th of March is his birthday. Yeah. He's made my career, if I can put it that way. If there's a person who's made my career that I would give my due to, it would be that man. That's who I would give it to.
Enormous amount of honor.
Yeah, that I would give to. If I had to take it and put it to someone. From there, my career just went. Because while I was executive assistant, I asked Brian to be my...
So where was Brian in this? So
he was the general manager of
For-
motor division.
Right.
So he's very much the role Simpiwe fulfills now. And I went to Brian and I said, Brian, I have to work with Chris, with Ronnie. Please can you mentor me? Because I actually don't know Ronnie. And he said, sure, let's talk. And we used to talk. So I said, I don't want a true mentorship, but I just want where, help me. And
Like
I
a
said,
sounding board.
yes. And I said, you, Chris, and Ronnie seem to have a very good thing, but I want to learn business from this side. So even when I talk, I can come. He said, sure. So we started the relationship. When my year ended with Ronnie, he wanted to extend it without my knowledge. And his ex-co said to him, if you want to find her a job, but you're not extending it because you're just very comfortable with her, and she does what you require and she delivers. And I got the feedback from both Chris and Brian, and they said, what do you want to do? Do you want to be an EA for 2 years? And I said, I'm being unfair to the next person. So let me look at what opportunities there were. And then I became the head of strategy and intelligence. And that's the position we had within our marketing division. By then, Chris had moved on and things had changed. And that's where. So I then ended up with that job. From that job, I got approached to be the CEO for corporate. So I was sitting in a dilemma where I had an exec head or general manager that I was butting heads with. And I don't keep quiet. And I said to the head, you know what, you and I are not working. So it's either I walk out of my role so you can do your work the way you want to, which I disagree with you, but it was around people and stuff. And I said, if you want to interfere in my patch and my team, then you rather own it, not me. And I said, I will move. And I didn't have I could have easily run to Ronnie and said, this is happening.
Yes.
I'm not that way. I went to Brian. Because Brian, when I went into his strategy and intelligence role, I really took him as a mentor at that time. And I said to Brian, I have this dilemma. And he said, then what is it that you want to do? And I said, I need to move, but I need to look for opportunities. The next thing, I got a call from Shona Seli to say that I'm looking for this, and Shona reported into Brian at that time. I'm looking for this. I believe you're wanting an opportunity. Are you open to it? And I said, Shona, you got me at a very bad moment because something had happened. I still remember. And she said, come out of your office, because then we had office. She says, come out of your office, come to me, let's talk. Her offices used to be in Constantia Park. We then had a conversation in Bank City, and I said to her, you got me at the wrong. She says, cry if you want to cry. So the crybaby was still very much there. I used to cry at everything. And then we chatted, and she said, Hawa, I have an opportunity. This is it. This is a role that I need, I don't have. Are you willing to take it? And I said, yes, I am. Unbeknown to me, my chaplain was then the head of corporate. And he said to me, why are you going into motor? Why are you going to report into Shona? Why don't you stay reporting into a general manager? And I said, Mike, I'm unhappy. So I'm going to go where my happiness is. And I can then give what I give to Westbank. And he said, no, I want to meet you. And I said, Mike, what's it? And he says, I want to meet with you. And this was all over the phone, was this conversation, because now it was already going around that I'm leaving strategy, I'm doing this. And so he then made me meet him. I remember that on my way home, I had to meet him at a bar, believe it or not. At a bar in Constantia Park, and I had to meet him there. And he said, this is what I want you to do. And I said, but I've already given my word to Shona. And he says, you have the right to change your mind. This is what I'm offering, and this is I want you. And that's how I became the CEO for corporate. And from the CEO for corporate, I became Chris's account executive. From Chris's account executive, I became Gerald's account executive, to now being totally Motor's account executive in Africa. And now my current boss wants me to leave Africa to just dedicate myself solely to his business. So yes.
So what have you said?
I will stay with his business. One of the reasons I'm still here. So when I say to you, I'm very grateful for Ronnie Watson, I'm going to share something else with you. I didn't realize this is open. I'm going to share something else with you. Westbank went on the First Rand Group went on the BE share scheme. With Ronnie in the chair, I was awarded, in my opinion, a very good and an excellent amount of shares, which has today made me a millionaire. Do I need to work? No. Because I have certain goals in place, and that's to have one free home and to give my husband a business that's debt-free, because he has a partner, silent partner, to pay him out. And that was my goal of working. My main goal of working was to ensure there's a roof over my children's head. Being with the company for 32 years, I have a what's the name? Pension fund. So that doesn't worry me.
Yes.
I'm not an extravagant person. So I know that will take care of itself. That was my only goal. One of the things on my horizon was that I was going to leave work when the shares came in to start my own business, and I'm passionate about cooking. So I didn't know how to cook, and there used to be all that. I can say it, that I'm an excellent cook today, and I'm not being arrogant about it. But it was a business that I wanted to do for a very niche market, focusing on executives, both male and female. They don't have time to have a home-cooked meal and not to buy it off the woman's shelf. Okay? That's one of my dreams.
Because I saw it then, I thought, I wonder in which context you mean this. So there was going to be a question around it, which you've already answered.
So that was always my dream. It's a passion I have. I enjoy it. When I'm stressed out, leave me in the kitchen. I'll cook up a storm. I'll clean up after me, but I come out very relaxed. I can put up food for 40 people at a short notice, and it wouldn't even faze me.
Wow.
Because my home is always stocked with things. That doesn't faze me. But leave me alone. When I say leave me alone, don't have 4 or 5 women say, what can I do? What can I do? Then I want to say, get away from me. Because then I become more frazzled because I'm explaining more where all the things are.
Rather than actually you could have done it yourself.
I do it in a far quicker time.
Yeah.
So that's who I am. So I love it. And it's fortunate for me, my daughters inherited that passion. When I say inherited, it's probably what she's seen and grown up, and she sees how much I enjoy it, she enjoys it. And she does it as well. So that's there. So that was my dream. I wasn't very happy in my job when Chris moved on, and this all happened last year. I believe that HR got a back step in the sales space. And the reason I say that is because it's a function. You're a sport area, you do that. No disrespect to Cyril Zungu or to Gerald Burton. Gerald Burton is a good listener, but for me, sometimes the action takes very long. Cyril Zungu runs around like a chicken without a head, and you never get anything done. Okay, and I thought, where I am in my life, do I need this frustration? Should I, when my shares come in, do I take this and leave the organization and invest in something that I want? I'd like some water, please.
Sorry, I'm here you go.
But I got my bottle here.
No, don't worry about your bottle.
Okay, so that's where I was. I also had many walk-ins with Judy. When I say walk-ins with Judy, there was a point in time in my career in HR. You must remember, I didn't come into HR because I wanted to come into HR. So the reception into HR wasn't a great one. Who the hell is she that knows no HR, that is being given the largest portfolio in the bank? I had no knowledge about HR, and
because that was a question in my mind that I've had, having read this, knowing where you are, and thinking, what was it that you did, knowing that whole space of how HR in general works?
Okay.
So you were met with resistance.
I was met with hell of a resistance. And remember, and I say I'm an introvert, I'm also a very sensitive person. I can pick up vibes like you can't believe. My gut, my intuition, my sensitivity, all of that, I don't know what it is. My team actually, sometimes they say to me, we just want to throw you away. And I say, why? They say to me, I just walk in and you look at me, you wait for me to put the bag down, and then you say to me, okay, come talk to me and tell me what's wrong. She says, I haven't even uttered a word, but you already can pick up there's something wrong. And they break down in front of me. I don't know what it is. So I'm not, and I say to you, I'm that type of person. So I'm very sensitive when things are there. I can name people that you know very well of how they've resisted, what they've done to me, but I don't allow that to stand in my way. I'm here to do a job, I'm paid to do a job, I'm paid to deliver, and I believe I get paid to do more than what is expected of me. And that's who I am. So you must remember, Chris approached me. I don't know what I wrote in there, but Chris called me to his office. I got an invite from his PA, and I phoned her and I said, what's this about? Which customers complained? Because remember, I was CEO for corporate. I said, what's gone wrong? I don't know, Howard. He wants to see you. Can you clear your diary? Because I see you have something. Okay, so can Chris not do it another time? Excuse me.
Was Chris already CEO?
No, he was the executive, the sales exec. Brian was CEO. So this happened in 2010. The conversation happened in 2009, around November, December. I then went to see Chris, and I walk in, and he says, please close the door, and you go, oh my God. So fortunately for my relationship with them, of having sat on the exco for a year, I have a good relationship, and I think I have good credibility at that level. So I close the door and I say, Chris, what's wrong? And he says, sit down. But he also knows me very well. So I said, Chris, you're actually making me very nervous and very scared. So what is wrong? Can you please tell me? And he says, does it have to be wrong? So I said, this is not right. And he says, okay, let's get to the point. Will you be my HR account executive? And I went, what? Chris, I don't know HR. I don't know HR. I don't know anything about HR. I said, I'm from business. I grew up in the business world. And he says, that's why I want you.
Makes sense.
And I said to him, yeah, but do I have to apply? He says, I don't know, but you might have to fill in forms. I said, what is this role about? And he then unpacked. So at that point in time, we had an account executive for motor. We had an account executive for fleet. We had an account executive for corporate. We had an account executive for insurance and marketing. So there were 4 people that did the job. And he says to me, I want you to take on the role of 4 people reporting to me. And he says, but I can't promise that. Because I want you to report to me, but we're still fighting at EXCO whether you should report to me. And I said, Chris, I don't know HR. Can I go find out? And he says, I don't want you to go ask HR about HR. So I said, Chris, what is it that you want me to do? He says,
question.
yeah. He says, all I want you to do is improve the service level from an HR point of view. Focus on performance management and focus on talent management. I want you to do 3 things and help me achieve employment equity. So there were 4 things, and I still have my notebook where he said to me. So I said, Chris, that sounds easy, but how many people am I going to be responsible for? And he then said to me, this is your portfolio. So that's when I...
Yes.
And I said, but they all have an AE. He says, yes, I don't want them. Just like that. And I said, okay. Can I go meet with all your heads to first understand whether I can deliver to what they want? Because remember, Chris, what I'm telling you. He says, you'll have a team that will do the work. I said, yes, I can have a team that will do the work. But I need to know what's the expectations and do I have the ability to do it? And what it would mean for their business if I can't. And he says, oh, you ask too much questions. And he says, I still remember all this nonsense about you. He says, go have your conversation and tell me. He says, how many days? I happened to be going away at that time. So I said, Chris, I am going away. I will see who I can see, but can I, before you go on leave or when you come, he says, no, before I go on leave, you're going to tell me. I'm not a great practicing Muslim, but I am a great believer, and we have certain prayers that can help guide us through the blessings of the Almighty. I go have the conversations, and you need 3, 5, or 7 nights to make the decision. And I go to here, I do all my prayers, I get the guidance that I require, and I come back and I say, can I see you? And he said, come in now. And I said, don't you have a meeting? And I said, you got. He says, don't worry, that can wait. He says to Anna, please tell him to come an hour later. I sit down with him, and he says, so I said, your expectations, what you want, got it. Each of your guys have said that's all similar things they're looking for. They're not looking for mind-blowing HR. They just want the service levels to be improved. I said, Chris, I think I can do that. He says, I know you can do it. So he says, what's your answer? I said, okay, I'll take it. He said, okay, when you're starting tomorrow? I said, no.
I'm going on leave, remember?
So this happened on the 1st of February 2010, and now I'm here 5 years. It's the longest role I ever held in my Westland portfolio. But in that 5 years, that's how that came about. In that 5 years, I reported to Chris. I then reported to Gerald when Chris became CEO. Then when they brought in Pillars on Deki, I then reported to Cyril. And now I report to Simpiwe. So as much as I've done the same role for 5 years, I've done different things in the 5 years.
And with different people.
And with different people. So coming back to why I'm still here, Simpiwe, first and foremost, is my friend. Remember what I said? He and I went to Disney. Yeah. So he and I went to Disney World together in 2001. I relocated to Johannesburg at the beginning of 2002. And I've been here ever since. My family relocated with me. Simpiwe and I were both on the Equity Forum at one stage together. We were both executive assistants together. I was for Ronnie, he was for Brian. We had a very close relationship as friends and colleagues.
And similar experiences. Yeah.
Okay, he actually said something to me last week, but I'll kind of share it if the moment's right. And that when he came and when he left, I knew the reasons he left. We still kept in touch. I went and shared with certain heads in the business that he wants to come back, guys. Let's take him back. And the next thing, he was back. Okay? But the person I shared it with never did it. And I didn't think it was appropriate of me to go to Chris. For the simple reason, I'm not the type of person to use my relationship for things like that.
I understand.
I will follow
The due process.
the protocols and I won't go over somebody's head. I'm very, maybe that's old-fashioned, but I'm very mindful of that. And that's when he came back, he came into the corporate space. We still used to chat. When the conversation started happening about him coming to Motor, believe it or not, I knew before it was announced.
I do believe it.
I knew it when he left. Chris said to me, let him go, we'll bring him back. Because my plan is for him to be the Motor exec. I knew that because I fought Chris on why we were letting him go. And Chris said, let him go, we will bring him back when the time is right. And Crystal said to me, are you going to keep in touch with him? And I said, Chris, I will, but as a friend and nothing to do with the bank.
Yes.
And that's where we were. And when Simpiwe came back, and when he told me it's happening, and I saw the announcement, I knew it, but I didn't say anything. And then he said to me, you bloody well knew everything. I said, remember who I used to work for. And the relationship I developed with Chris, even if I say it, was a very good and strong relationship. Confidentiality and integrity sits very high for me.
Absolutely key.
And somebody said it, Shona actually said it in one of her fleet excos, because I was responsible for those businesses as the AE. That, do you know that lady sitting there is the confidant for not one CEO, not two CEOs, but 3 CEOs that I can count. And how many senior managers or general managers do you think? And I didn't realize it. You don't think about it like that. I don't think about it like that. And the conversations I had with Chris as a person. Simpiwe said to me when I say the other day, a couple of weeks ago, he had a conversation with Andrew Marshall, and he said to Andrew, they somehow got onto the topic of me, because I look after West Bank Africa, and it falls within Andrew's space. That's his portfolio on the news side. And Simpiwe said to Andrew, if Howard puts this piece of paper and says sign on that dotted line, I won't even blink an eye. I'll sign it, and I won't even question what it is. So for me, when I think about those kinds of things, of the credibility I have, and the ethics, all of that, it's mind-blowing, not realizing that I do it consciously, if I can put it that way. It's not something, but it's such a nice affirmation, if I can put it that way.
But how you did something to earn it. It wasn't handed to you.
No.
So yes, they're acknowledging it. They are acknowledging it. They are recognizing it. But it was not handed to you. You earned it.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I'll tell you about what I really wanted to tell you about Simpiwe was the fact that when I said Simpiwe and I are friends, I had even said to him, well, Spikes, when I get my shares, I'm going to start a new career. And that's what I said. When he came into the chair, I said, you knew what I said? And he says, yes, and I'm waiting to hear what you're going to say now. And I said, I'm going to give you my word that I'm going to stay because I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve in the HR space. And if I leave here, I want to say that I have achieved what I set out to achieve for our business and that I have delivered on that.
And this is the conversation you had last week?
No. This was a conversation when he came on board in September.
Okay.
The conversation I had last week with him was around our performance review. So we did our performance review in November. Last week was the first time we had the feedback session because of timing and all of that. And the thing that he said to me then was part of the feedbacks I've just shared with you from an Andrew Marshall point of view, because I said to him, Spikes, I've never had a sit-down formal feedback. So even with Chris would sit down and say, here's your rating, you're doing well.
Yeah.
And I said simply, well, what I'm really looking for is truly to understand what type of conversation takes place at Bank Exco around the people. And I don't want to know about the people. I want to know what type of conversation is taking place around Hawa. And he says, excuse me, why do you want to know that? I said, I just like to know what is being said, because now I've worked with a couple more of the execs than what I... And he says, God, Hawa. And he pulls out his piece of paper and he said, okay, you want the feedback, here's it. And he gave me, and he said to me, let me tell you that you were not the 6x16 recipient for HR only because of Mandisa being the quiet one in the background. So now I'm one of the recipients of the 16, the top 10%. For HR, there were 3 of us. Okay, from the management team of HR, I was the only one. Then it was Rohini Govender, I don't know if you know her, and Mandisa Mbele. She's the team leader for the admin team. And they said that when we chose Mandisa, it was the quietness of what she does. She says, they said, you were on the list, you were the top candidate. I won the Innovation Award for HR.
Wow.
And they said, it's not only now that we're talking about you, you constantly, and he said, don't discount that. And for me, the 6x16 is something that's happened, done and done. He said to me, that was the conversation. He says, think about it. Disney World. You were one of 9 people that won it. 6x16. You're one of 64 people in the HR space. You were one of top 10% of West Bank. He says, don't discount those things. And that's what, I take it for granted. It's a job done, that's it, move on. And that's what he shared with me. That I sit back and I think, okay.
So it leads me to this question, and the question that...
I'm looking at your time.
No, my time is fast.
Okay.
On purpose. Because I had been late for anything. The question is, when you think of career progression, okay, now there's various stages in your life that you've clearly mentioned. What do you think career progression was for you? And what is it now?
Okay. So
because you're talking a little bit about that now.
Yeah. So career progression for me, what it was then was just a job moving into it.
Slow down. What do you mean, just a job moving into it?
It was just changing roles. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't about a career then.
Yes.
So it was just progressing in an organization.
Laterally, hierarchically,
laterally.
Okay. And into different, what made that career progression for you?
I'll tell you what changed it, and I shared this with you the last time, and you still said to me, phone her and say thank you, or the aha moment I had, was when I moved, and I said to you, Liz Ryan Marilia said to me, you will go places in West Bank. And I went,
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if that was the critical point that said this is not just a job, but let's make something more of it. I don't chase money. I don't chase title. I chase satisfaction. And I chase satisfaction by stretching myself to achieve that satisfaction. What's career progression mean then, pre that time, was just moving in a role and being employed.
But it wasn't just moving in a role. That's what I'm wanting to you
unpack that for you.
That's too easy. What do you mean?
I don't think I gave it much thought then. I think where it truly changed for me is probably in the year 2000.
Why? Is that when Liz said to you?
No. It's when I was exposed to bigger things.
So there was a realization at that point, this isn't just about changing roles all the time and doing something new and challenging. What was that? So that the definition changed for you.
And that I underestimated my own ability, if you want to sum up it.
Which meant what for career progression for you?
In the past, I was an Indian female that had no future but just a job.
And then?
And then I can be an Indian female that can set can I call it standard? I'm trying to think of the words. Or be not a role model, but be a light that can tell other Indian females, especially Indian females, not just females, because the white females were far ahead. But Indian females, I can't even count how many of us had been in those positions.
So what did career progression change to mean for you?
For me,
in 2000?
It was an opportunity to be where I wanted to be.
Which was?
Let's get to senior management.
Right.
I think at that point in time, I even aspired to get into executive. And that was the goal. And then it became, how do I achieve that? And for me, it wasn't like a goal in the front of my mind. It was, okay, let me stretch myself in where I go. So it wasn't a case of I want to be an executive. It wasn't a case of I want to do this. If I say something to you, Anne, when Judy moved out of HR and went into operations as a general manager, Ronnie at that time was even saying to the EXCO, can Howard be our HR executive? And I was still wet behind the ears, if I put it. Okay. And I wouldn't have been a success at that point in time in that role. I think I would have probably broken or not, I don't know. But it wasn't meant to be. For me, it became a thing of what can I do more and where can I move to? Not about seniority, but what positions can I start moving to? Because like I said to you, I underestimated my own ability.
But what do you think was 2000 something changed? I can actually get to senior levels. Thought. Then it was what positions can you get to? My focus in terms of where did I. So once I got into a role, I said, okay, I learned that I mastered this. Where do I want to go to next? And what drove you to make that next choice? Was what? In terms of career progression? I never made the choices. So if you think back to the story I've just said, it was the opportunities that just came. Yes. So for me, you could still say no. So what was the driving factor that made you say yes? Because you still had to say, and you would be the kind of person that would say no, thank you. Yes, I would be. It was how challenging would it be for me, and how would it stretch me? Okay. So for me, it was always about growth. Until today, it's still about growth. What is it that I can learn new and differently, and how can I add value? Okay, so that was the definitive. That's career progression for you. What does career progression mean to you today? Okay. Because you're in a different phase of the career life cycle. Okay. So let me tell you what's happened since Judy announced her resignation. I've been approached. I can't even count it on my fingers. That's how many more than that I have. People ask me if I'm going to apply for the role, and that was never on my horizon because where I am in the point in my life, and LDP helped with that because LDP, one of the session was where to your future, right, and your dream. And LDP helped me with that because my dream was how do I help set my husband up so that when time comes, he's set up and I can go and do whatever I want to do. And that was the focus. Yes. Okay? So that was the main focus. So when Judy's resignation got announced, and the people asked me, Anissa Dinder, the actual account executive for a head office, asked me, how are you going to be applying? And I hope you are applying for the role. And I said to Anissa, this wasn't even on my radar screen. Because HR doesn't have a great brand. It has no brand. Yes. HR has no brand. So let them talk about a great brand. HR has no brand. And if you ever go and look at... No, it does have a brand. No brand is a brand. All right. So HR... Do you know what I mean? Yes. So the brand of HR isn't good. Yes. Okay, so let's put it that way. If you go and look at my LDP paper, and where do I want to take what in 5 years' time, and what is it that I wanted to focus on was to uplift the HR brand.
Have I achieved it in as HR? No. Have I achieved it in my space? Most definitely. And I'll show you a WhatsApp just that came last night to me, believe it or not. And I'll show it to you just to share with you. It wasn't the intention. And that was my goal in my LDP learner contract, was to improve the HR brand. That's what I would like to do. And that's the goal I set for myself. So I thought, this wasn't on my radar screen. Can I think about it? So what was career for me then? Now. And I went through the motion of saying, do I have the ability to do it? Do I have the credibility to do it at the EXCO level? Do I have credibility? I went with, do I have the ability? First I started with credibility because the EXCO will allow me to learn. Do I have the ability? Who will I be working with? What it would mean? And who would I be working with would be who would by my team. Of that team, who would stay and who would leave potentially? What is the impact to me? What is the impact to my family? What is the impact to where I am at the age of 53? I have 7 years to go. So financial wasn't even on the radar screen. Then I said, so those were my 7 points. Then I said, what would it mean financially? As far as I'm concerned, I've said to you, I'm not a money chaser.
Yes.
It's not about money. And I might be stupid, but that's who I am. It's not about me being multi-millionaire. That's not about those goals. Okay? I then did a whole analysis on my own, worked it through in my brain, driving home with my hubby, and because when I said to him, Judy to resign, he said to me, are you applying? And I said, why are you also asking me this? Everybody's now asking this question of me. People that I didn't even, when I say know, deeply know, we have relationships with, but people who know me came and said, hope you're applying. Don't know what they've heard about me, but those are the questions. And that got me thinking. And I said, Idris, I'm not applying. And he says, why are you not? And I went through it. All of the things I said I have, what the main parts that would it mean to me was that it will impact my personal life, because the type of person I am, and I said to you earlier on, I will put in extra hours to learn what I need to. The impact it will have on my daughter, I have a 17-year-old who's in matric, very independent, very successful, and very confident in her own, nothing. But before I blink my eyes, she'll be married and out of my home. I will have nothing left with her. I have a son who's 24, it will mean less. And I said to my hubby, it will mean even less time with you. And I said, what does it mean financially? I'll get an increase, not a massive increase because I know how Westbank wants, but I will get a fantastic bonus if I deliver, and I will get fantastic shares if I deliver. How many years to shares? 2 years, 3-year tranches? Is it about money? Am I going to stay here to 60? Not on my horizon. So no, I don't want the job.
So what does career progression mean?
So career progression to me is, what it means to me is to achieve my own dreams in the space that I am in, and to actually give to others what I have. So if I can grow somebody else's career, if you really want it, it's how do I grow and uplift somebody else's career with it. So in that paper you read, I'm going on the coaching journey.
So we'll get to that point.
That's what it is for me.
Let's revisit the phases that we went through. We had an unbelievable first interview. There were aha moments that you're quite surprised about, and quite surprised, I think, also in terms of what the research was really, really about. Revisit that for me. You went away and reflected about it. Tell me about that.
I think I've just shared it in my story with you.
Is there anything else? Did you phone her? Did you go back and phone her? Yeah.
And I phoned Debbie, and I've touched base with for quite a few of them. But what was really thing is on the coaching side. We did something called a still life. You might be familiar with it, Pygmalion. Sean Grimman.
Tell me the process.
You take 5 objects from your home that talks to you, and each object signifies something. And you create I'm rearranging your stuff.
It's fine.
But you create a still life of it, and you take a photograph of it, and you then talk about what each thing means for you. All right? And it's also a journey of life, a journey of who you are. I couldn't take the Quran, which is where my values are based, because we have very strict rules on how to use the Quran and where you use it. So I took the leadership of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him. Sorry, said the Arabic terminology. Okay, I took that as the foundation. I took a plant that talks to nurturing, but what was very cute about the plant, that without me even realizing it, it's one of those Chinese bamboo plants, the little ones.
Yes.
It actually has cords tied around it, and it talks about how to hold a family together. And I use that to depict not only my parents or my kids, my hubby. It talks about all of that. I took my innovation award around the success I've achieved in the organization, and for me it's the ultimate, because one of West Bank's key pillars is innovation, and to receive the innovation award. So I took that. They said to you, ask your family or close people to you, to what objects would represent you. My husband said a ruler. And I went, what? And I thought, am I so strict? And, you think
quite a
ruler?
shock. Yeah.
And I said, unpack that one, because I jumped to conclusion in my brain.
Yes.
I didn't verbalize it.
Yes.
And he says, you are straight.
Interesting.
He says, you are straight, in the sense that what you see is what you get. And I said, Idris, I was actually taking a mirror, and I took a mirror. Because the thing I was going to say is, it's what you see is what you get from a mirror point of view, but also I have the tendency, and you ask the question about, I reflect a lot.
That's why I'm asking. What was that from that first interview that we had?
So it's this whole thing, because believe it or not, that conversation and the still life actually has made it easier for me to talk. You heard me being emotional when I was talking about Rani. When I was walking through that reflection, my parents, I cried. My brother, I cried. When I finished this exercise, I could have painted a picture of being, and if you think how I started the story, we were poor and rich. Poor financially, rich the other way. And that's the reflection.
What's happening now?
I'm amazed I held it so long.
What's touched you?
My foundation. My parents. My brother. I'm only in Joburg, not because of my child. I'll tell you. I'm a great believer of faith, and I believe I'm only following a path that's already written. I have a strong belief in that. I always say I was brought to Johannesburg. My late brother was divorced. So when he was diagnosed with cancer, I was the one who took him for all his autopsies and all his things. And I always say that I'm only in Johannesburg because the Almighty knew what was going to happen. And my purpose of being in Johannesburg, one, is my job. But the main purpose is to be here for my brother. And to provide those 2 years for him that he had then been diagnosed and stayed with me. That we took care of him right till his dying day. Was the reason I'm in Johannesburg. No other reason.
Which also answers why you've chosen not to go and apply for that other position.
I want to appreciate where I am with my kids.
Yeah. It answers that question.
And I have no regrets. Strangely enough, the day after I told my hubby my next day was my one-on-one with Judy. And she said to me, so tell me, where to for you from here? And I said, what are you asking? She said, are you applying for the role? And I said, no, I'm not. And she said, why? And I walked her through and I said, Judy, no, thank you. I value, and maybe it's age, I value what I have, exceptionally. It's the most important thing in my life. I love my job.
That's very, very clear.
I love my job. I love what I do. I love Westbank. I love my family more than I love my job. My boss said to me, I want you solely for my business. I don't want to share you. Not because he's my friend, but because what I do. And I'm not bragging.
No, but it's going to allow you the space that you want. It actually gives you the control of what it is that you want to achieve.
Yes, but I wanted to do Africa.
So then fight back.
But I went through it, and I'm happy to stay with Motown. With the proviso that I nurture and grow the person that will potentially walk into this role of Africa and can then run with it. So I'll do the strategic side and the operations. And
So you can still keep her.
Africa is very operational. And he's worried. He said to me, he's worried about me. How am I going to cope? How am I going to? And I said, I'll do. And he says, I know you'll do, to the detriment of yourself.
Tell me about the workshop. How did you experience that workshop?
Can I skip the Chris part?
Yes, skip the Chris part. How do you think he was in that workshop?
False.
It was my sense, and it's important for me to hear it because you're close to him.
False. It wasn't his heart talking. It was his mind.
Why do you think it wasn't his heart talking?
He didn't put himself in the shoe of a woman and the importance of woman in leadership in the business world. And he's not there. He's too clinical. Chris and I used to say to Chris, you have such a wealth of knowledge and skills. Why don't you meet your people? And he said to me, do you want to chase all the people from our organization?
So he acknowledged it.
He knows he ain't a great mentor. He knows he can't do it. He knows he's not a people's person. He has his heart in the right place. He's actually bringing back things that Ronnie Watson used to do, which is revive the culture, revive the focus on people. But he's not doing it with the heart and mind which Ronnie would have done. He's doing it with the head. I'll tell you an example. I sent him an article the other day from Harvard Business Review. No, not Harvard Business Review. It was from LinkedIn. That spoke about your employees as brand ambassadors. And I said, Chris, why don't you put in a question in your WeConnect to just get the sense of what our people think about us, because they can be your most cheapest.
Yes.
I didn't even say it in the thing, but from a brand ambassador. And he says, I see no value in this. And I said, thank you, but it's not something I'm going to respond to you. He says, what's the value? And I said, it's not something I'm going to talk to you about on an email. I want to talk to you face to face. And the next day I met him at ARB, which is our African Advisory Board. And he says, you know the answer. I said, yes, I know who I'm talking to, but we're not talking about it now. I'm going to talk to you face to face about it because I think you're missing an opportunity. But we'll find the right time when you're not busy, when you're going to actually listen to me. And he packed up laughing at me. So when I say he's false, that's why I say he's false. He was talking about his children and the fact that they need to focus on being a mother or a career woman. And for me, it's not about that. So when he says that we must focus, and what were his words he used? Not the same old problem. We mustn't approach the problem with the same old thinking, I think was his words, something to that. He approached that whole opening with the old way of thinking and not the new way of thinking. So that's where I felt. And I felt very miserable, I'll say this to you, and because the table said, wow, and I went,
Yes.
So they said, did you see that motivational? And I said, if you found it motivational, that's good for you. I didn't.
I must tell you, my war room table right at the back where we were all sitting, my professor, Freddie, turned and looked at me, like raises his eyebrow, and I just went like this. We'll fix this.
So that part, fortunately, didn't damper it. Okay. I loved I love the workshop, and I think I said it in there.
You did.
I love the workshop. I think the thinking, and you gave me background after about what Chris said and how it went about. So that tells you his heart is not there.
He had completely forgotten about this, what they'd agreed to, what it was all about.
Yeah. For me, if I go through what you took us through, Anastasia.
Anastasia. Yes.
I loved her session. I really and truly loved her session. Your professor. You know, that whole thing you took us through, that journey, but that Anastasia part where she took us through this and what we threw up. I don't believe in a Women in Leadership award, so I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Because I said, what makes a man different?
Yes.
Why don't we have a man in leadership award?
Yeah.
So, hello, why are we discriminating? But that's me, and that's my diversity and my translations there, so why mustn't be different?
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming from. But for me, if I take the steps, and I need to now reflect on exactly what we did. So we started off with Chris opening.
Yes.
We then went into the exercise.
Discovery. You went into discovery. So the idea was go back to the time when you flourished in your career and what you captured. Then we were looking at this process. If you read between the lines, past, present, and future. So when we're looking at the present and you look at the organization, what do you value? What do you appreciate about the organization? And we look to the future and we say, what are your hopes and dreams? What's your hopes and wishes? If you had 3 wishes, what would it be? And coming from that, what's your dream?
Yes.
So this is also the process I'm taking you.
You've just
today.
done that.
Yeah, so I'm taking you to what was the past?
Yes. So
what was the workshop?
So, what she called us your appreciation inquiry. What was it?
It's the whole methodology is called appreciative inquiry. Yeah.
Inquiry. I love that because take your whole project, your whole thesis of what you've done, and you brought me down to tears. Okay, so I told you I'm a crybaby up front. Okay, no, don't need to. You'll smack yourself for that. That journey is something we take for granted.
Yes.
So I'm going to go. So when this process you started there, and I went back in who were the people in my career, what happened, and I think about it. This journey, I actually made a note in my diary about reading more about the appreciative inquiry.
We have a world conference coming in July, and people are coming from all over the world, including India. I can introduce you to the woman who heads it up in India.
That would be lovely.
It's in July.
Please send me the dates.
I'll send you, so you can register for however much you want to register.
Okay.
I'm part of the local organising committee, and then I'll introduce you to Nina.
Oh, that would be lovely.
I hope she's coming. I think she's coming up.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's why I said I forgot my book, so I'm not using your journal. I've started a new journal because of the coaching. Because then I've taken everything and kind of put it in one place that I can find everything. Even the workshop, I came with that journal to the workshop. And a lot of the notes is there, and that's where I've continued my coaching journey. So this whole appreciative inquiry is what I thoroughly enjoyed. The past, yes, we've dwelled a lot on the past, and the prior, even today we've spent. The present we've spoken about. The future
is where I want to know now.
Yeah. My future is very much around myself and what I can take of myself to help others. I have a very altruistic nature. Okay, that's...
Yes, that's very, very clear.
It's either a good thing or a bad thing. It could be a positive for me, it could be a downfall. I don't look at it a downfall. My husband always says to me, you even give the clothes off your back if somebody needed it. Okay, that's who I am. One of my items I had on that still life was I wanted to take a pot.
Yes.
But I took a glass casserole dish with a lid, and I said I didn't go with, I said my pot is always full. It's either half full or it's always full. It's never empty. And it's not half empty. So it's always full, for no matter who walks in my door. And on that still life, one of the things they said, go out in nature and bring something to add to it. And one of the colleagues in the workshop had a rock. And I said to her, can I borrow your rock? Because that rock depicts my husband.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And when I took the photograph to home that night, and I showed the kids, and they said, "Mom, explain this," and I explained, and they said, "What's the rock? Is that Julieta's foot?" And I said, "That's your dad."
Beautiful.
And they all just kept quiet.
Because they knew it's true.
Yeah, they just kept quiet. But so me here into the future.
Yes. So let's look at what you've written down, because now this is
I'm
where
50. Oh, in the 5 years' time.
Yes.
Yes, I'm 58 years old, no longer with Westbank.
Yes.
Did you see? I already
Yeah.
said it. I don't intend being here. If I get to 55 in Westbank, I would have achieved my dream of delivering what I wanted to from a task point of view. I'm achieving my two aspiration of owning my business and coaching people in Westbank as one of my clients. That's moved a bit on that one. The objective is sharing my business acumen and personal growth over the period in a corporate world. My personal satisfaction is when I see others growing. It's impossible. So nothing different to what I've just said. I can't even remember what I wrote. My progression since 2015, completing the coaching workshop, being registered with the ICF, coaching people in the motor space, achieving the strategic objectives of the motor in terms of people, a stint in Westbank Africa space, and leaving on a high in my corporate career. By 2017, leaving Westbank and starting my coaching company with a team of coaches.
So when you look at this, what is it that you need to do to achieve this in 5 years' time?
So one of the things I need to do is do the coaching workshop. So we finished the first three, and that's the challenge I'm experiencing right now, is that by the 18th I would need to have coached and taped my first coaching session so that it can be vetted for ICF, and you're probably familiar with all of that. So that's what I'm working on. So that's the one part. And for me, it's in March, it's to do the second 3 days. Well, in the end of this month is to do the second component of the workshop. And then post that is to actually pursue becoming an ICF and just to be accredited at this point in time. So that is my core focus from a self-achievement point of view of my focus. Once I've done that, Simpiwe has already said to the businesses that both Adele and I are studying coaching, and he's going to be using us more in the coaching space. Which is where my journey really started, because as I started getting more in the talent space and spending time in the businesses, I've realized that we actually don't have people who can transfer knowledge and skills, and we don't know how to go about it. And what I said to some people at that time is that I'd like to be a coach for our business, not even the greater business. So that's the kind of thing that we will have with the conversation. And I think to achieve this journey is I'm going to use Westbank as my platform for the pro bono coaching so that I can get the practice in-house.
Very nice.
Okay. And once I've got that pro bono coaching in-house, is only when I leave the organization can I go in and start. But in the same time, a thought that...
You said something's shifted.
Yes, so a thought that's shifted is that even when I leave Westbank, Westbank's not going to be my core client. Now, I mentioned my altruistic nature. And one of the things, I can't remember where this happened, and so I'm going to lie to you, but when I was sitting and thinking about coaching, and I'm saying, how many other Muslim women in the Muslim community that want to do things, and I'm looking more at the female side, and are not able to do it because they don't know the how. And can I do that in terms of coaching, even if it's the disadvantaged people? So not only purely Muslim, because a Muslim woman won't go out and go do what openly.
Very few.
Yes. So is that something I can explore? Can I be linked to an organization that can provide that sort of ability? And I'm happy to do it pro bono.
Were you at the graduation of this last LDPs?
No, because we were very cross with Sulu and Sheldon.
What happened?
It only went into the diary of Simpiwe
When?
the last week when the graduation. So if you're asking me, we weren't, because we had our motor conference. From that Friday is the day you had your graduation.
Yes,
so you had no motor representation at your LDP.
Yes, now I know. And I asked that question. And I knew that there was a motor conference. And at the time, so I facilitated that. And at the time I thought, that's strange. This 20th of February was set in place last year, April, May, June.
Nope. So none of the diaries. So let me tell you, and this is no disrespect to Sulin, but I'm going to give it to you from an LDP Omnicorp brand point of view.
I don't think you're not going to tell me anything I don't already know, but tell me.
Sulin's organizational skills, excuse the language, sucks. Even her women in leadership stuff. When you booked this room last year.
Yes.
When you started your journey with them, long ago. But their poor planning becomes everybody else's crisis.
Yes.
And we made a decision at Motor Exco. Those of our delegates that want to go, they must go. But the Exco wasn't coming. And I don't even know the entire Exco of Motor was invited. I was invited as an AE. Simpiwe was invited as an exec head. We both declined. We put our conference in at a later date. If it was already in the diary, we would have worked our conference around that date. But the one thing that Sulin, and I'm using Sulin as the person, doesn't do is communicate the things. When we have to do LDP nominations, do you know how we as AEs fight with her because it becomes, here's my timelines, and we hate it. But that's what it is. So when we sit and we hear Sulin get all the accolades, we go.
I think I don't need to tell you what I've had to go through to get this in process. I don't think I need to tell you the work I've done behind the scenes.
It sounds like Sulin's done it, so let me tell you where the credit is going. When she put up her hand to coordinate those workshops.
I know.
And Carol and I said, deliver on what you're flippin' well employed to do at West Bank. I know you're taping it, but I'm happy to think this is for
mine.
you.
This is just for me.
But that's our frustration.
So, okay, a couple of things. I'm thinking Omnicorp, but I think, okay, I'm not wearing that hat right now. I'm wearing the hat of a researcher. And I'm saying to you that I have experienced frustrations, and I've had to do, for this, putting all of this together, I've had to do 98% of the work.
I can imagine.
As you would imagine.
I know, because...
And I've been anxious to get to this point, Hawa, because I always knew that if I got to this point, I could control it from here on. And I have been at the mercy of Sulin, Megan, Judy, to Exco. I said that to you on that day. I've had to work behind this. I haven't been able to go around as much as I know I could, because I'm like you. I'm the kind of person that would just pick up the phone and say,
no, I'm saying, yeah, no, I can understand.
And my concern for those workshops is that it's not my dream for it to fall apart. It's not my dream for those initiatives to fall apart. And it needs to have somebody who is committed, dedicated, organized to pull the whole thing together.
So she doesn't even know we're meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know. She hasn't even asked. But our group is meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I know you're meeting tomorrow. I have been invited, but I can't because I've got an interview already. Because I would have loved to come and just sit in the corner and just watch.
Yeah. So the group I join is Adele's one around her thinking. And that for me is where I can. So you're saying how to make my dream happen. Is how do I share that? Is we said that work group said we want to have, can I call it, come chat about this. That's it. And I think what Adele and I are doing as learning to be a coach will help that.
So can I tell you what led me to ask you, were you at the graduation? Because Omnicorp does some work with a group called Harambee.
Oh.
Do you know Harambee?
Yes.
You know
I
Marilyn?
know of them.
Okay. So the CEO came to present. And it was so awe-inspiring to hear the way that they are working, the energy in which they work with, and how they work.
I know. I was exploring it, and Judy told us no to bring into our business.
Well, apparently somebody else I was talking to said that Chris already knew about Harambee, and that Chris had also mooted it, and he was shot down.
Judy shot us down.
Oh, was it Judy? Okay. What I would like to suggest, both for your business, both for your goal, is that you and I go and meet with Marianne.
Can I bring some peewee with?
Wonderful. Let's set it up. My diary is a bit tight, as you know, because of...
No, mine is horrendous because of where we are
Yeah.
at the moment.
So I would love...
So you give me dates.
Okay. What month are we talking? So I'm talking May. What month are you talking?
April, May, it's fine.
Is that fine?
Yes,
Okay.
April,
So I'll
May.
give you dates. I'll find out from Mariana. And let's
Give me
go have a
dates and
meeting.
yeah.
Because when you're talking about helping Muslim women, and you're saying, but also disadvantaged, they are looking for people. And into the space where you're prepared to do pro bono work, that is a strategy you can use. So I'm
Because
offering
I
it to
can
you
get,
as a strategy.
because I'm fully employed by West Bank, I can't charge.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm happy while I'm still in the employ of West Bank to do pro bono work for anyone.
And it has the benefit of growing your experience.
Growing my experience, and if a component of it talks towards my accreditation, that's all I'm looking for.
That's a strategy.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
because
that's
remember,
it.
remember how I started off? I said, this is about you, but this is also about you doing proper strategies. Because the question I'm asking is, what strategies do women pull towards themselves to create the dream that they want? So in essence, the strategy is that while you're employed, you're prepared to do the pro bono work in order to achieve the goal that you want to achieve.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay. All right, so we'll set that up.
Yes, please do, and I'm going to mention it to Spike.
And also maybe at that, when we go,
Because
you, me, and
I'll tell you-
Spike can have a, remember, I've been talking to you around and round this
So I can
point.
tell you another thing. I'm looking at a graduate learnership. This can be my feeder. I forgot about them.
Yes, it can be your feeder. Remember, they're not graduates.
No.
Remember
But
that.
they do also have some graduates.
Yes, they do. They do.
They do. And we can look at that as well.
Almost the final question. Life always happens, as you know. Something always takes off in a different direction. Tell me about sustainability of this decision that you're making and the strategies that you're putting in place for you and also for the workshop. Because again, it's a sustainability of the momentum that you're starting to create. Because people fall by the wayside and it's, let's meet, oh no, so can't meet, etc., etc. How are you going to make it into the powerhouse I know in my core it can be for change?
So, to be honest, I haven't thought about it.
Okay.
But I think if I have to sit and think about it, I think and where I want to go with the coaching component. Because the cooking is there. So the catering business, I'm owning my own business, and the catering component is on one side. But from a coaching point of view is where I'm investing. I was paying for this myself. My boss has turned around and said, I'll reimburse you. So the company's reimbursed me. So for me, if somebody's paid for something that I have to do, I have to give that return of investment.
I understand.
So that's my principles. I don't take anything for nothing, and I don't expect anything for nothing. So I'll give in return. So from a sustainability point of view, yes, life does happen, and I might go off the bus. But also the commitment that I've given, I will come back on the bus and make it happen. The second advantage I have is that, and Adele and I haven't spoken about it, but I can say to her, be my pillar next to me to pull me back on the bus. And I'll do the same for you. The nice thing we've done as the coaching group that we are is that how do we keep us all on track?
Yes.
I haven't built up relationships to actually do that, but it's possibly something I can do as well.
So you and Adele keeping each other honest.
In a way.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's her thinking because I haven't spoken to her about it. But just like we keep on saying, how far are you, how far am I? Are you on track? We only have so many
Can't keep
days.
it cheap.
Yes. So that for me is where the learning will go. But also remember that from my job point of view, I have said that I want to coach the people, and Simply is already putting it out there that that's where we are. And that's going to be great. So that will keep me on track. And if I contract with him in my performance contract, then I have to deliver on it.
Yes.
And I'm all about delivery.
That's what I'm yeah. Because
So I'm all about delivery. And if that's in my contract, that's what I have to do.
And tell me about the workshop initiatives. How do those grow from just being seeds that have been put in here in a tin? How do we make them? How do we seed them? How do we water them? How do we make sure it flourishes?
So I think the group I've joined, so I can talk for my group,
Yes.
I can't talk for the others. But I think, so for me, I can do that easily in the motor space.
Yes.
All right? I have a talent review forum on Friday. one of the things we're going to be talking about is leadership mentoring and development in our motor space. 2015 and onwards, he added an extra word, is the year of people development. I call 2015 as the year of development. Simpiwe is now going on a road show and he said, and onwards. Okay. So for me, that conversation that's going to take place on Friday, I'm going to position how do Adele and I take what we learn and start doing it in the business. That ties us down as part of the contracting to the motor TRE. And Friday is only a brainstorming session.
Lovely.
And that's what we're talking about. And it's around on how do we identify mentors for our leaders, up-and-coming leaders, and what development do we need to do. So that's where. So I think I won't put strategies that I think are unrealistic. And when it comes to the workshop, to sustain it, is how in that space can we go around the country and say, let's take a group of ladies, and let's have a conversation around women in leadership. What are the challenges?
You're going to make me cry.
For me, that is where I would take it. What are the challenges you're experiencing? And I will, with the learning of the coaching, I will then do, if I can say, and I don't have any experience, but how to group coach. And then to make it a group coaching session, having been exposed to it in LGP with our group coaching we went through, but to actually take that learning, the learning from coaching, and kind of facilitate. I'm in Cape Town on Monday as an example. And because I haven't thought about it, because it's not at the point where I'm thinking how I'm going to do this, I could have said, can I take an hour, and Harvey, can you give me time with just the women in your space? And let me talk about women in leadership. And I'll probably tap on your table to say, hey, what can I take? What can I use? And that's where I can let my mind grow. But that's the type of person I am.
With pleasure. With absolute
So I must write that down, hey?
Yes, you must write this down. You must write these 3 things that you
Okay, then let me write it. Hey, you can send it to me. Okay. All right.
So the strategies that you said to me is that the company is giving you something, and that for you, your value is about the commitment to that and the payback of that, and the commitment to the company. So that's a strategy that works for you, that is going to enable you to sustain your dream. The second thing that you said to me is that you've identified a resource that is close to you, that can help you keep on track, and that you can help keep on track. And the third thing that you said to me is, basically, this is a volunteer aspect, but I'm not prepared to leave this as a volunteer aspect. How do I take this and make this an actual business initiative and imperative in order for it to flourish? That's what you've said to me.
How you changed my words.
That's what you meant. Is that not what you meant?
Yes, I do, but you make it sound so profound.
It is profound, because that is what you said to me.
Conversation on Women in Leadership Initiative and imperative for motor. And my focus is motor.
Yes.
I can do things in small bits, and I'll do it in motor.
But it will grow.
When visiting. Because when we start.
So then the rest of the business follows.
When visiting regions, etc. Group coaching.
There are so many initiatives you can do.
I know, but I don't like doing that.
Yes.
I rather focus on what I can.
I mean, for example, a couple of years ago, so the idea of this particular PhD was born only, I'd say, probably at the beginning of last year, because prior to that, so Freddie and I have been in conversation for a number of years. And originally I had said to him, Freddie, I want to do a pre-assessment of women, run a woman in leadership workshop, and then run a post, which I did. And Omnicorp stood by my side while I did this. So we ran a woman in leadership only workshop. Came at the end of it, and then I reviewed literature, and I hadn't really achieved much. So my driving force is I want to add to the world of literature so that somebody else can take it and say, look at what you achieved here. How can we replicate it for real? So this has been pure voluntary. I mean, I have spent enormous amount of money on stuff behind this. This was all my own funding. This was all funding. Journals were funding. What you saw on that day was all. The only thing I didn't pay for was the catering and the space on that day. But everything else I had paid for. So I have got skin in this game, and it's very close to me, as you know. So, coming from that model, Amico have actually taken it and they've offered the Women in Leadership Development Program. So, I mean, I was quite chuffed that Marcel got hold of me last week. She says, Paula Wald, coming to me, they want to run a Women in Leadership thing. How can you do this? And I start panicking because I think, this is my baby, this is where I am. So that's one of many initiatives that can be taken forward. It's about how do you build that in? Because that has power. How do you create a group who talks about the pregnant parking space in front? How do you build enough power behind a group that can actually make that happen to make the lives of women? And Howard, this is only day 2. But I am so moved by the stories I am hearing.
I can imagine.
I am so moved. I go home, and on the way home, I actually want to cry. I want to cry with the space that people are sitting here and telling me their stories. And part of that is Exco need to know that they've lost women who are still here because of how betrayed women have felt.
And it's not going to change. When I say it's not going to change, if the mindset doesn't change, it's not going to change. You see, it's whether the person is resilient enough to weather it out. Yeah. And that's why I say to you, I'm forever grateful to Ronnie Watson. Because he created the opportunity which I took and ran. So it's right, yes, what did I do? Yeah. I embraced it.
Yes.
And I never allowed things to stand in my way. I can take you on a sub-story journey of my experience in HR. There was a point where I actually went to Judy and I said, I'm leaving HR. And she got the fright of her life and she made me sit down and said, please don't, because if you do leave, I will be fired.
Sure.
Could I live with somebody's on my conscience? Could I live with that on my conscience, that I got a senior executive fired because I was leaving? And I said this, it wasn't Westbank. It was the HR department wasn't for me.
Yes.
And that's when our reporting lines changed to business. Because we were reporting to her.
Sure.
With dotted to business. And after that, it changed to business with dotted to her.
And that's what made it work.
And that made it work. Not so much that, but it was the greater HR then realized that they couldn't do what they did to make me miserable. And one colleague in this space, Carol, had actually said to me, why do you allow them to do that to you? Look at what you do and value what you're doing in your business. Don't worry about it. But remember what I said, I'm a very sensitive person. I take everything to heart. I take everything to heart. And that's it.
Yeah.
And to have that on my conscience, that's why what you just said, that the women have left us, it's a job now, and it's the money that's paying for the expenses. But you don't have the presence of that person. The nice thing for me is that Simpiwe is on a different ride. Without breaching confidentiality, and this is now I'm going into the workspace.
So can we end this? All right. So hold that. So then, value for you of this interview would be what?
The greatest value this journey has been, and not only this one, your whole journey has been taking me back to my roots.
Because
it's made me realize where my richness comes from. Not realize, it kind of
reinforced.
It just brings it alive, if I can put you. And it goes to the first point I made.
Yes.
And I actually wasn't knowing what to expect today. So what I've spoken to you is from my heart.
I know. And I'm so privileged. And thank you. And thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. You can switch. Now I'm going to put